Wow, I cannot believe we're already on day 3 of learning about the story of Moses escaping Egypt. We've learned what it's like to be a student in Egyptian school, just like Moses was, and yesterday we learned what it was like for the Hebrew people and what slavery was like for them. Ben talked about God appointing Moses and setting the Israelite people go from captivity and slavery. Not only the whole story turning his staff into a snake and God showing the Egyptian people and Pharaoh his power through Moses, that didn't work. It made Pharaoh's heart even harder. And he made it harder for the Israelite people and promised Moses that God will let the Israelites go. But God promised that the Israelite people set free. In fact, I have just the dance help us understand about how Pharaoh wouldn't let Moses' people go.
I said to Pharaoh, Pharaoh, oh baby, let my people go. Yeah, 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 yeah. I said to Pharaoh, Pharaoh, oh baby, let my people go. Yeah, 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 yeah. Burning bush told me just the other day that I should come over here and stay. I got to get my people out of Pharaoh's land and lead them on to the promised land. I said to Pharaoh, Pharaoh, oh baby, let my people go. Yeah, 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 yeah. I said to Pharaoh, Pharaoh, oh baby, let my people go. Yeah, 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 yeah. So me and God's people headed to the Red Sea with Pharaoh's army coming after me. So I took my rod, stuck it in the sand, and all of God's people walked on dry land. I said to Pharaoh, Pharaoh, oh baby, let my people go. Yeah, 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 yeah. I said to Pharaoh, Pharaoh, oh baby, let my people go. Yeah, 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 yeah. Pharaoh's army was a coming to. So what do you think that I did do? Well, I raised my rod and I cleared my throat, and all of Pharaoh's army did the dead man's float. I said to Pharaoh, Pharaoh, oh baby, let my people go. Yeah, 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 yeah. I said to Pharaoh, Pharaoh, oh baby, let my people go. Yeah, 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 yeah. I said to Pharaoh, Pharaoh, oh baby, let my people go. Yeah, 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 yeah. I said to Pharaoh, Pharaoh, oh baby, let my people go. Yeah, 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 yeah. Let my people go. Yeah, 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 yeah. Let my people go.
So God told Moses to go back to Pharaoh, and God is going to show up big time and prove how powerful he is and how strong he is, and that there's only one true God. Today we're going to hear from an Egyptian during this time period who, right in the middle of all of this, is trying to figure out what's going on and who is this God. Let's see what happens.
Hello children, welcome to the royal court. I am one of Pharaoh's advisors, and my name is Lapis. I hear you are interested in some current events that have been happening here lately. It's been quite a ride. It's not been an easy time for us Egyptians. You see, there's some sort of slave rebellion going on, and honestly, I'm a little afraid. You see, it all started with this guy named Moses. Man, that guy had some fire in his eyes. He came off of a mountain, and him and his brother Aaron waltzed up to Pharaoh, and they said, "Let the slaves go. They're people." What? How could we do that? That's ridiculous, right? Well, anyway, he said that it wasn't just him asking for the slaves to go, it was his God, Yahweh of the Hebrews. I believe you children know him as simply God. So Moses and Aaron go down to the Nile River, and they call upon their God. And their God begins to turn the river into blood. Now, this is problematic for me as an Egyptian, as you may know. I worship different gods than your god. In fact, one of the gods I worship is a god of the Nile, a water-bearer god named Hapi. And I thought Hapi was in charge of the Nile, but it appears that the god of the Hebrews, we have great magicians here in Egypt, they could turn some water into blood somehow. And so, you know, we thought nothing of it. Pharaoh said he might let him go, and then he changed his mind. And a week passed, and Moses and Aaron returned, and they said their God still wanted to let the people go. He said this time there would be frogs. Okay, we Egyptians, you know, we have our peace with frogs. In fact, we worship a frog goddess named Heket. And, you know, I thought Heket might be in charge of the frogs, but it appears as Moses and Aaron asked their God to do it, frogs came from everywhere. They were in my food. They were in my oven. They were in my snacks. Can you imagine having frogs in your snacks, kids? Those frogs were everywhere, and I was quite done with it. And Pharaoh, well, he thought the same thing I did. He said, well, you know what, maybe we'll just give them what they want, and they can go out and worship their God and come back. And then Pharaoh changed his mind. Who wants to give up all this free work we get from the Hebrews? If Hapi wasn't in charge of the Nile and Heket wasn't in charge of the frogs, I'm beginning to think this God of the Hebrews is someone to reckon with. It gets worse. The next day, Moses and Aaron came back, and they said their God was still angry because Pharaoh had changed his mind. And so they waved their staff in front of the dirt, and the dirt became gnats. You ever leave out a banana too long? We have bananas here in Egypt. Seems like the gnats come from nowhere. Well, our magicians couldn't make it come out of nowhere, exactly. Not even out of dust. So I was beginning to get a little concerned. And you see, we have a god of the dust. His name is Geb. It doesn't seem like Geb showed up to work that day. The dust became gnats, and the gnats got everywhere. And I mean everywhere. I think I'd rather go back to the frogs. Guys, it just keeps getting worse. This God of the Hebrews really means business. The next time, Moses and Aaron returned, and again, they had fire in their eyes. And they said their God was mad because Pharaoh still hadn't let his people go. And I'm here getting nervous. Like, Pharaoh, I think we need to let the slaves go. But he doesn't want to hear any of that. They say flies are going to come everywhere, but they're not going to come where the Hebrews live over in Goshen. They're going to come only into our households, the Egyptian households. And sure enough, flies like you've never seen before. Flies coating every surface, everything swarming with flies. There's not a fly swat big enough. And you know what? In Goshen, where these people were worshiping your God, there was not a fly there. We have this God we worship, Khepri, and he has the head of a fly. So I kind of thought maybe he would show up to work that day. And you know what? I'm beginning to think, as I mentioned, that this God of the Hebrews, the one that you know is God, maybe he's stronger than the gods I know. So these were all very inconvenient to us in our lifestyle here in Egypt. Pharaoh wasn't wavering on this. He would say, hey, they can go, and then never mind, I'm going to harden my heart. Pharaoh's hard heart. This Israelite God, he wasn't happy about this. He wanted to make an example out of Pharaoh. Well, the next thing really hurt our pocketbook. You see, we make a lot of money off of different things here in Egypt, and one of them is livestock. Moses and Aaron, at the will of their God, called down a plague, a curse on the livestock, and the cows, they fell. And Moses gave us a heads up that we might repent, that we would listen to their God, and I'm beginning to think that their God might be a little stronger, I thought. Our God that has a cow head, Hathor, who is a God of protection, would protect us and protect our livestock. But that wasn't the case. Our livestock dropped dead. Not the Israelite livestock, down in the region of Goshen. And things kept getting worse. And Pharaoh's heart kept getting harder. So far, our lives had been affected. Yes, but not directly affected. Moses and Aaron returned, and this time, we got boils on our skin. And the God of the Israelites was trying to tell us that we needed to let his people go, and we got boils on our skin, and it hurt, and it was gross, and it was uncomfortable. Have you ever had boils on your skin? Ugh, it's just disgusting. It almost ruined my flawless complexion. And we cried out to our goddess Isis, who is a goddess of healing. But there was no answer. I think the God of the Israelites must be stronger than all of our gods. And then what happened next was utterly terrifying. Moses and Aaron returned, and they said their God was going to bring hail, these big chunks of ice, and he gave a warning. And me and some of my friends, we listened to that warning. We got inside. But a lot of my Egyptian brothers and sisters, they really don't like the Israelites and really don't like Moses and Aaron and his God and what he has to say. Well, they went outside, and these hailstones were so big, they killed everyone outside, and they ruined crops. And many of us cried out to our goddess Nut, who is a goddess of the sky, but there was no answer. The hail kept falling. And if that wasn't bad enough, with our crops half ruined, Moses and Aaron came and said that God was sending a locust swarm. Locusts can ruin a country. They can send us into famine. And surely enough, at Moses and Aaron's word, their God sent an east wind driving a swarm of locusts. I've never seen as many. And they ate up everything green. And while I sit here indoors and in part of Pharaoh's palace, out there by the Nile, and normally green and beautiful and filled with crops, right now there's nothing green left. And we cried out to Seth, who is a god of storms, to blow this horde of locusts away. But he did not. He did not answer. So now we wait. What will Pharaoh do? Will he continue to harden his heart? And there's one God that we put our faith in. His name is Ra, the god of the sun. Maybe he will answer our pleas. Oh no! It's dark! Guys, I can't. Oh! I'm running into things. I can't see a thing. I don't think Ra is in charge right now. If this God of the Hebrews can blot out the sun, maybe, just maybe, he's the only real God. Oh, hello again. I can't see you, but I hear you, children. Is that you, Hampton? Is that you, Tucker? It's been 3 days of darkness, and many of my friends have been praying to Ra. I stopped 3 days ago. You see, I don't think any of our gods are in charge. I'm beginning to wonder if any of them are really gods at all. Because the God of the Hebrews, this one named Yahweh, we heard Moses say that this God was coming against the gods of Egypt. So I'm beginning to believe in that God, in Yahweh, the one you kids call simply God. Surely he is in charge. Surely he is in control. He controls the river. He controls the animals. He controls the skies. He controls even light and dark. We must let the Hebrews go. I think I'm going to follow that God now. The darkness plague has lifted, and Pharaoh said, hey, you guys can go. But then, guys, I'm really afraid he changed his mind again. What else does this God, whom I'm beginning to believe in, have to do to get the attention of the Egyptians, like myself, especially Pharaoh? Pharaoh, our leader, has hardened his heart against a God who is strong and powerful and he's stronger than any of our gods. In fact, he might be the only true God. I'm beginning to believe that. And yet Pharaoh has hardened his heart against him. What must God do to redeem his people? But I have a feeling God, the living God, is going to accomplish what he sets out to accomplish. I think the Israelites will be free. And soon, when they go, I might just join them to meet this powerful an amazing God.
Guys? Guys, where are you? Oh, there you guys are. I couldn't see you in the darkness. Hold on. Wow, lots to unpack. God really showed up and denounced every single one of their gods. I get the heebie-jeebies thinking about all those locusts and frog in my houses and in their houses. Ugh. I'm flabbergasted that Pharaoh changed his mind and is not letting the Hebrew people go after all of those 9 plagues. Just blows my mind. Good news is that we still have lots of the story to cover. It's time to get out our pamphlets and go to box number 3, and we're gonna put the ladybug/bug sticker on box number 3. Okay, wow, we're halfway there, guys. This is crazy. Okay, great. Only 2 more boxes to go. Tomorrow, you might want to wear an apron and get ready to eat some food.